Is it audible for you?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. In the last class, we were discussing about the properties of systems, and we have already discussed two properties. First one was the linearity property, which should satisfy the superposition principle, and the second property was the time invariant property. Means whatever the delay input we are going to give at the input side, the same time delay or same time shift, it should reflect at the output also. Then we can say that the system is time invariant. Otherwise, if the particular time shift is not reflecting at the output side, then we can say that it is time variant system or non-time invariant system. And today we'll be discussing about the memory and memoryless system. Already, I think you have written the definition. Now I can go through one or two examples and then we can proceed with the fourth property of the system. So now we will discuss one more example for a memory and memoryless system. So in the last class we have discussed that always there exists a relation between input and output of a system. So I can call x of n as input and y of n as output. And as far as this equation is concerned, the output is nothing but the delayed version of an input or time shifted version of input, isn't it? And the signal is discrete in nature. Just I have taken one example. And I need to check whether the system, the equation that is defined for this particular system is memory or memoryless system. For that, what I will do is, I will take the time instant n equal to 0. Okay, n equal to 0 as the observation time instant, and I will put this particular time instant in this equation and check the relation. So now the equation will be written like this, that is y of 0 is equal to x of minus 1. Lokesh, I go through your chat. I will be discussing only on Monday. Okay, that others also write this and post in the classroom. I'll be discussing only on Monday. Kindly wait. Okay, I'll spare one full day for discussing those questions. Don't bother about that. Okay, whatever the doubts in the practice questions you have, I'll be clearing on Monday. Clear? So y of 0 is equal to x of minus 1, which means that the output depends on past inputs. Why it is past inputs? Because as you can see, minus 1 is a time which is past of 0. Here 0 is the present time that we have taken, and minus 1 is nothing but the past instant of time. So we can say that the output depends on the past instance of input. Therefore, this can have a memory. So this particular system will have a memory. Clear? Now take another example like y of n equal to n into x of n. Y of n equal to n into x of n. This is also a system that relates the output y of n and input x of n in such a way that it has multiplied the time n with x of n so that you will get the output y of n. Now I need to check whether this particular system is having memory or not. So what I will do is, again I will put n as 0 and I will check. That is, now y of 0 is equal to 0 into x of 0, or y of 1 equal to 1 into x of 1. Then I will put negative also and I will check. So whatever the time instance that you put, here it is understood that the output is depending only on the present input and not on past, isn't it? So which means that this is a memoryless system. It doesn't have memory. So this is memoryless system. While this particular system, since it depends on the past inputs, we can say that the system has memory. Clear? So when you can say that a system is memoryless, only if the output depends on past. Okay, only if output depends on past, then you can say that the system is having memory. Otherwise, if it is depending only on present, then we can say that the system is not having memory or it is a memoryless system. Okay. In this example, Here, the output is depending only on the present instance of time. As a result, there is no dependency on past. So we can say that the system is memoryless system. And whereas in the second example, that is y of n equal to x of n minus 1, there we can see output depends on the past instance of time also. Therefore, it is having memory. Any doubts? Any doubts you have, please ask. Kindly take down the example and then we can move to the fourth one. These are the few examples of a memory and memoryless system, which is a third property of a system. Now we'll go for the fourth property, causality. Fourth property of a system is nothing but causality. Causality. Take down the definition. A system is causal. A system is causal if the present values of output y of t present values of output y of t depends only on the past and or and slash or present value of input x of t, present value of input x of t. Next point, if it depends on future, if it depends on future, if it depends on future values of input, future values of input x of t, then it is called non-causal. So these are the conditions for causal and non-causal. So a system can be called as a causal system if and only if the output of the system is depending only on past and present. Either it can be past alone or it can be present alone or the combination of past and present. But if there is any term like it is depending on future values of input, future means there should be some anticipation or there should be some prediction. Okay. So the system will be predicting the output based upon the future values of input. Then we can say that that system is non-causal. Clear? If a system is depending only on the present or and future, past values of the input, then we can say that it is causal. But in addition to it, if the output of the system depends also on the future, then it can be called as non-causal. I will write an example for you. Y of t is equal to x of t plus x of t minus 1. So this is an example of a system where the output y of t is depending on x of t and x of t minus 1. Let us check whether this is depending on future, past or present values of input. So for that, what I will do is, we will be putting a time instant t is equal to 0 and check. So substitute t is equal to 0 so that the output at 0th instance of time is equal to x of 0 plus x of minus 1. That means the output is depending on present input and past values of input. Why it is becoming past? Because as you can see, minus 1 is past to 0. 0 is the present input and minus 1 is the past time of present input, isn't it? When you consider 0 and minus 1 instant of time is past of 0th instant of time. So we can say that here the output is depending on present and past. Even if you take minus 1, t equal to minus 1, then what will be the answer? It is y of minus 1 is equal to x of minus 1 plus x of minus 2. Isn't it? Minus 1 is minus 2. Again, minus 2 is past to minus 1. So here the system is depending only on present input and past input values. Therefore, it is causal. Clear? But if you have any term that is showing the future values of input, then it will be non-causal. Kindly mute yourself. All of you, please ensure that your mic is muted. Now, we go for another example, that is y of t equal to x of t plus x of t plus 1. Y of t is equal to x of t plus x of t plus 1. Just try to put t equal to 0 and see. T equal to 0. So y of 0 is equal to x of 0 plus x of 1. Here, the present output y of 0 is depending on present input x of 0 and future input x of 1, because 1 is future to 0. So as you have a future term here, so this is your future input. Okay. So if the system depends on the future input, then we can say that it is a non-causal. So the condition to be ensured is always the output of the system should depend only on present and past values of input. Either present is also okay, or combination of present and past is also okay, or past alone is also okay. That is a speciality of AND/OR. Understood? Either the single term that is depending on past input, that is also fine, or a single term that is depending on present values of the input, that is also fine, or the output can be a combination of both present and past values of x of t. So that is a condition of causality. But if at any cost you are having an additional term that is depending on the future values of input, then you can say that the system is non-causal. So kindly take down these two examples. This is example number 1 and this is example 2. And same case you can apply for discrete also. Discrete means you will be replacing t with n. That is all. That is the only change that you have. Take down the two examples, and if you have any doubts, kindly ask. One doubt. The x of t minus 1 component with respect to time shifting means that the graph is pushed right. But here it means that it is a previous output. How is it possible? Okay. Hope you have taken down. I will clear that. Okay. The doubt was, if you are writing x of t minus 1, suppose this is your x of t, and if you are drawing x of t minus 1, what you will do is you will be pushing the signal towards right by 1 unit of time. This is what is being done in the previous class, isn't it? This is your x of t and this is your x of t minus 1. But now what you are doing is, if you are taking a signal x of t and if you are doing t equal to 0, the signal will be x of 0. X of 0 is nothing but a signal's amplitude at t equal to 0. Okay. Now, x of minus 1 is nothing but a signal's amplitude at t is equal to minus 1. It doesn't have any connection with this or this. This is something which called as a delayed signal, isn't it? Or shifted signal. Delay means originally the signal was starting from 0, but after shifting it is starting from 1 unit of time. That is 1 second it has been delayed. 1 second it is delayed. Here 1 second the signal has been delayed. But the use of these terminologies, that is x of 0 and x of minus 1, it means that it is nothing but the signal's value or amplitude or magnitude at the instant of 0 or at the instant of minus 1. So if t is equal to 0 means the amplitude here is 0. If x of minus 1, suppose this is continuously oscillating like this, then x of minus 1 may be here. Will be the value of x of minus 1. This is a past value, isn't it? If this is considered as a present value, then this can be considered as past. So kindly note these two doesn't have any relations. X of 0 and x of minus 1 means that the value of that particular signal at the peculiar instance of time 0, minus 1, etc. Is it clear, Sayan?
Yes, sir.
Now I will move to the next property. The next property is called, what is that? What is the next property? You kindly just check the previous class notes. What is the fifth property you have?
Sir, stability.
It is stability. So take down stability. So the fifth property is called stability. Within bracket you write Bibo stability. Bibo stability. Bibo means bounded input, bounded output. Bounded input, bounded output. Write the note. A system is said to be Bibo stable. A system is said to be Bibo stable if and only if every bounded input results in bounded output. So every bounded input results in bounded output. What do you mean by bounded? Suppose you have a system here, and to this system I have given a signal x of t, which is like this. It is existing only for 1 second of duration and it is a pulse having an amplitude 1. So this x of t can be treated as a bounded input. Okay, this can be treated as a bounded input. Why it is bounded? Because its output is confined only to 1 second and the amplitude is also, it is 1 unit. Okay, and if the system is producing an output like this is also a bounded output. This is also a bounded signal. So any system that is producing a bounded output corresponding to a bounded input, then we can say that that system is a bibostable system. Bounded means it should be confined to a particular limit and the output should be predictable. Otherwise, if it is going towards infinity, we won't be able to find the, or we won't be able to measure the output, isn't it? There won't be any system that is available in the real life to measure an output whose amplitude is of infinity and its time duration is also at infinity. So in that case, we can say that the output or the input may be unbounded. Okay, then the system will be unstable. So a system can be stable only if the system is capable of producing an output which is a bounded value corresponding to the bounded input. So,
Sir, I have a doubt here.
yes, tell me.
Sir, the input is x of t and the x-axis is t. And what is happening in system that the shape is also changed and we are getting y of t?
Yes, system is something, a circuit or a hardware that is performing a task over this input. For example, if you take rectifier, you have been studying electronic circuits now. In the rectifier, what's happening? You are converting AC signal to DC. So that's
Yes,
the system. Yeah. So likewise, this is a system which is converting a pulse to a RAM. That's all. You don't bother about what kind of system and all, but you assume that it is a circuit or it is a hardware which is going to convert any pulse signal to a RAM output, a negative going RAM. That's all. Clear?
okay, sir.
Okay. Suppose if you are using this as the sine wave, if you are using a rectifier as a system, then it will be like this, the pulsating DC. If you are using a full wave rectifier, the output will be a pulsating DC, which is almost a constant, but still you are having a fluctuations. That can be also considered as a system. System is something which is performing a task over the input. Based upon that system's hardware or that software which is embedded to that particular system, it will be doing some task. Based upon that, you are getting an output. But in this module, we are not confined in this subject. We are not going to confine the task of the system. Only we are analyzing the property of the system. So the system is producing some output and we are checking whether that output is bounded or not. Now I will do another example, then it will be clear for you if the system is stable or not. I will take another system. I will give an input like this. From this figure, you can see that this is a bounded input. Why it is bounded? Because its output is having a finite value and which exists only for a finite duration of time. Its amplitude is also finite. Both x-axis and y-axis values are finite. It is confined to a non-limit. And but the system is producing an output like this. The thing is that I didn't mention anything in the x-axis. The limit is not mentioned, which means that the amplitude of y of t is going on increasing. That is, at t equal to infinity, you are having an undefined amplitude or undefined magnitude for the output, which means that the output is an unbounded signal. This is unbounded output. Unbounded output. So a system that produces an unbounded output corresponding to a bounded input, then we can say that the system is an unstable system. So a system can be called as a stable system only if that system is producing a bounded output corresponding to a bounded input. Now I will write this statement as mathematically. Whenever mod x of t is less than or equal to bx less than or equal to infinity, for all t, then mod y of t less than or equal to by less than or equal to, sorry, you can't write less than or equal to infinity, I'm very sorry, just put only less than, okay, less than infinity for all t, where bx and by are some positive numbers, then the system is Bibot stable. One doubt is there that whether we can consider all the elementary signals as bounded signals. It cannot be considered. Why? Because if this is an exponential signal that you have, consider x of t equal to e raised to t. This is an elementary signal, but what about this? Is it a bounded signal? It cannot be a bounded signal because it is increasing exponentially. So at a t equal to infinity, its amplitude is not predictable. It will be going like this. So at t equal to infinity, amplitude goes on increases and its output is unpredictable. So it need not necessarily that all the elementary signals can be bounded. It depends on the magnitude at t is equal to infinity. So that statement will be more clear if you read this particular point. Whenever your magnitude of input x of t, that is mod x of t, is lying between a finite limits, that is, it is less than mod x of t and it is less than infinity, that is bx. Bx is nothing but your magnitude of the signal. So that bx should lie between two defined values, that is mod x of t and infinity. Similarly, by also corresponding to this input, your output should be also defined. Means it should not go towards infinity for all t. Then we can say that bx and by are some positive finite values. In those cases, the output will be always a bounded signal corresponding to the input signal. So we can say that the system is stable. So to analyze the stability of the system, we need to give some inputs which are always a bounded signal. Correspondingly, the output of the system should be also bounded. Means the magnitude should be a finite value which should be less than infinity. And while doing the problems, this will be more clear for you. As of now, you just think the concept. The concept is if you are providing a bounded input, output should be also bounded. Then we can say that the system is stable. Otherwise, it is unstable. Take down all these points. Kindly submit those practice questions answers in the classroom. That is not in the stream. You need to submit in the classwork tab. Okay, individually you scan your PDF, that is your written material, scan it and upload. And Monday we will be discussing all those questions. If any doubts, you just ping me on Monday. Okay, I'll be clearing all those doubts. Now I will be moving to the next property of the system. Is this clear for you? Any doubts? If there is any doubts means please post me and ask. Next one is invertibility. Next property is invertibility. So the sixth property we have is invertibility. A system is said to be invertible. A system is said to be invertible if the input of the system can be recovered from the output, can be recovered from the output of the system. Okay, suppose we have a system, your input is x of n, system 1 it is, and it is producing an output y of t, y of n. It is producing an output y of n. Now what I will do is, I will cascade another system, system number 2, and to this system 2 I will give the initial output, and the system 2 is able to recover our first input back. So I am able to recover my input x of n by using another system which is being cascaded to system number 1. Cascaded means one after another. So system 2 is cascaded with system 1 so that it is able to recover our initial input x of n from the output y of n. So in this scenario, system 1 can be called as invertible. System 1 is called as invertible because we are recovering the input of system 1. Okay. System 1 is called as invertible system. But to recover the signal x of n, we need to do a cascading, or we need to take the help of another system, that is system number 2. In that case, system 2 is called as inverse system. Inverse system. This is invertible. First one is invertible system, and the second one is inverse system. Okay. The system 1 is called invertible system, and system 2 is called inverse system. Simply I will do one example, then you will be able to know whether that particular system is invertible or not. Suppose I have an amplifier to which I have given a continuous time signal x of t, which is an electrical signal corresponding to my speech. X of t is nothing but an electrical analog signal corresponding to my speech. Speech is being converted to electrical signal by using microphone, and it is given to the amplifier. So x of t is nothing but the signal which is to be amplified. What this amplifier has been done is, amplifier has amplified the signal by a factor of a, so that output will become a x of t. Output will become a x of t, where a is the scaling factor. Output of the amplifier is a into x of t. That means the amplifier has amplified the weak signal to a large value by a scaling factor capital A. Now what I will do is, I will put an attenuator here. Attenuator. Attenuator is something which is going to reduce your amplitude by a particular factor. Suppose that here the attenuation factor is 1 by A. Here the amplification factor is capital A. attenuation factor is 1 by A, then you will get the original signal x of t. So in this case, this amplifier can be called as an invertible system, and attenuator can be called as a inverse system, because it is with the help of this attenuator only we are able to get the original signal x of t. So amplifier is an invertible system and attenuator is an inverse system. So if any system which is able to recover its own input from the output with the help of another system that is cascaded, then we can say that system number 1 is called as invertible system, and the second system which we have taken or which we have cascaded with the previous system is called as inverse system. So these are the 6 properties of the system what we have discussed. Now next thing is we need to do the problems for the first 5 properties. What are the first 5 properties? You just recall. First one is linearity, second one is time invariant, third one is memoryless, fourth is causal, fifth is stability. So all these 5 properties we need to check for a given question. Clear? I need all of you to recall that linearity property once again. So kindly go back and just revise the linearity property. In another 1 minute, this meeting will going to end. Okay, you can relog in with the same link.